Hey everybody, the time has come. Die in the Dungeon is complete. So we have in here the final box. There are 3,000 of these now made. They'll be shipping overseas to different ports in the very near future and then sent forth to backers. So we're just going to do a full unboxing and show you what you're in for. If you want it to be a complete surprise, wait till you get it in the mail. In the meantime, those of you that want to see what's coming, let's have a look. So the box itself, just a tad larger than the die in the Legends of Novus box, and definitely bigger than the original demo box that I sent out to previewers earlier this year. On the sides, you've got the high quality art. Because they're vector images, there's no pixelation when you make them larger, so these images look really stellar on the box. Then the back of the box has the descriptors, 1 or 2 players, 30 to 45 minutes, 14 plus, and death and dice. Some people thought that would be a bad icon to have on the box. I felt like tossing it in. Warning, small parts not suitable for children, yada yada yada. Suggested retail price $44.95. And you can see you're getting a fair chunk of goods in here. You're going to see when we open it up. And of course, a description of the game, taking on the role of a powerful dungeon monster in the solo or 2-player reverse dungeon crawler. Quick overlay of what happens in the game and a quick description of what's in the box. So this is a sealed box. Everybody will get a poly sealed container, of course. But I have pre-opened one because why wouldn't I? So I'll take this one away. I won't open this one up. But this one here has all the contents that are in every single game box. So we'll start with the lid. So one of the decisions I made early on in the process was to have a training dungeon. And so as we flip over the box lid, you'll see we've got the training dungeon there. So the training dungeon is just a really easy, simple dungeon. You put your tiles on top, matching these, and you put your icons where the icons show, and you can have basically a dungeon map set up in a very short amount of time by doing it that way, with the finale just being the 4 classic characters. And in the rulebook or the dungeon guide, it will suggest what tiles to use here for your first experience. But if you ever want to show it at a convention or show it to friends, you can set up this quick version and have them play through and teach them in this map itself. And then the sides of the box have that kind of rocky dice shapes to them. You can see the D12 and the D10 and D6s in there. I love that design by Tristram. So there you have it. That is the outside of the box. The inside of the box, here we'll take that lid away. The inside of the box also has artwork on the side. So you'll see there the late addition to the cast is the Dice Blazer Beast and the Bard. Those were stretch goals added in. The Kobold. We've got Crit in there just for visuals, and Tombstone's another add-on, and then the 5 epic heroes that you have to defeat. So that is the outside of the box. Inside the box, we've got a very nice insert, so a big thank you to Hopes Games for creating this insert. And it kind of nestles in, so you'll see there's an inlet there. Nestled in is the rulebook, the dungeon guide, and the 5 playable characters. We've got the Troll, Tombstones, the Die Roller, the Diamond, and the Die Rake. And on the back of every board is a reference chart for all of the heroes. So it doesn't matter which board you use, there's always 5 other boards in which you can reference those different heroes. Or you can take a picture of it and just use your phone if you'd rather not have a big board next to you. Either way, these boards themselves do have that insert there, so you can see there that dual layer allows for the dynamic dice to stay in their zone and the dice to stay underneath their particular stat. And you'll see that when I do a playthrough video using the final components. But there you have it. Those are the creature boards. The rulebook itself, high quality, full color. You can see here we've got 18, 19, 20, 21 pages, including a promotional page. Gotta have that. And another example of the heroes chart, just in case you wanted an in-guide reference to it. And the Die Master staring at you from the back. But in here there'll be multiplayer rules for how to play the game, of course, description of all the tile formats, the hero formats, everything you need, and of course a full component list. So when you open your box, you can make sure you have everything that belongs. So there you go. That is the rulebook, followed by the dungeon guide. Now I will give a caveat. I'll be sending a note to backers prior to arriving, as well as on Board Game Geek. The dungeon guide itself ended up printing in a different sequence. So the sequence in which you play the dungeons would actually be in reverse of how it's printed in the guide. Other than that, all the images printed out very, very clear. Nice shiny, the text is fine. Love how the PNGs stand out on the paper. Again, those vector-based images really make well for growth. A page to look at for the Shop 3D minis that I'll show you later, and how to build your own dungeon and multiplayer rules are all in here. So again, the caveat being that you would be starting from the Rookie's dungeon and working your way from the back to the front of the rulebooks, or the dungeon guide. And again, there's already 3,000 of these produced, and somehow that got missed. So, but everything you need to play the game is in here. All the information is correct. It's just a sequence that is not. All right, but now into the meat. So when you open your game of Die in the Dungeon, flip this around. This is nice, hefty insert in there. It's hollow underneath, and no hidden maps or anything. And so what you're going to get is all of the tiles. So in total there are, let's just make sure I quote the right values here. So for dungeon tiles, you're going to have 68 different tiles, and they're going to be sorted in different ways. They'll have different backs. All the backs will match the fronts. I've validated that all of my tiles' backs do match their fronts, so sometimes those little finicky things are hard to catch in production, but they're all accurate. So you have 68 of those, including the 6 epic hero tiles. And they'll have those epic encounters which will take place in the game. Next, let's take a look at the cards. Cardstock is a nice finish. I'll zoom in there. You can see that kind of linen-y finish. Feels good on the fingers. Add some texture to it. And again, these are never randomized, so card sleeving isn't as necessary in a game where you're not going to constantly be shuffling. There's no need to shuffle these cards because nothing is random in Die in the Dungeon other than the dice themselves. But you'll have basically 12 of each hero type, 4 level 1s, 4 level 2s, 2 level 3s, and 2 level 4s of each hero type, and they all have the same card back, just a simple Die in the Dungeon backing. So there we've got the fighter, the rogues, the wizards, and of course the clerics who protect them all. Looks wizardly, but is a cleric. Followed by that, we've got our epic heroes, so the barbarian, the assassin, the warlock, and the patriarch. And then we had the bonus cards that were added in as we funded more in the game. We have the bard, the kobold, both of which are double-sided with different effects on the back, the dwarf explosionist epic hero, and the elf ranger epic hero joined, as well as the Dice Blazer Beast. Now, one character we did not unlock was Crit. However, if you scan that QR code, you will find Crit on the website, and you could always print out and play with Crit, the Dyron Golem. All right. And then lastly for the cards, of course, are the creature cards. I mean, you've got to have your bonus creature abilities. And of course your reminder cards, your combat sequence on one side and your turn sequence on the other. But then your creature cards got the creature image on the back. There's 4 of each creature. And on the fronts is a close-up of their face along with each ability. And each one has a 1, 2, 3, and 4 ability point ability. They're one-time use cards in the game. And that is the ability cards. That's it for cards. Let's move on to acrylic tokens. So you're going to get a whole bag of acrylic tokens. This was a last-minute upgrade to the game instead of cardboard, so they'll be much more durable. And on these tokens, you will see we've got one side of the Dominions has the die image. The other side, sorry, my focus is not focusing, but the other side has the Dominion. Or we have 4 portal tokens. Got all kinds of tokens in here. So there you go. In total, there are 36 acrylic tokens that come along with this game. I'll grab the one on the floor right now so I don't forget it. Of course, in a handy pouch. It all comes with bags, so that's that. Next up, the dynamic dice. So in here, one of the later additions based on continuing to fund post-Kickstarter was the spin down die. So instead of using D20s from the colored sets for your time, you could use the spin down die. So you can see there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it rotates up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it's easier to count on your spin down die than it is on a standard die. Then we have our hero die. So that is the image printed rounded corner D6, which allows you to roll for random heroes, which some of the tiles will have you doing. And then we have the dynamic dice, just mini tiny little D6s, and they're used on your creature board as you gain dynamic dice pips, kind of like experience. All right, so we'll toss all these back in the bag. Again, baggies for everything, easy to store your game up when you're done so that you don't have parts rolling all over the place. And we have 3 full sets of polyhedral dice as promised. Black, green, and blue, as indicated on the Kickstarter page. Just high quality plastic. And of course with this game you have the perk of always using your own special dice. Maybe you've got your own favored set at home or you want to try different colors with different characters. But these 3 bags all come with the core game. And they fit nicely into these little slots here, whether they're in the bags or not. And last but not least is our acrylic miniature, or acrylic standees. So our last one of the add-ons we had was Tombstone, the Undyed Knight. So on one side it's got a shiny finish, and on the other side is kind of a rougher look to it. That's kind of where they adhere it, and then you see it through nice and shiny on the other side. They come off the bases, but the bases are fairly easy to attach, and all you do is snap it in place like so, and it will stand. And you can actually, I put it away in the box with the bases on, no problems there. You can actually see an example of that. We've got the diamond, which I dropped, the die roller, ooh, so shiny again on one side, and a little bit of a rough exterior on the other. We have the troll obones, and the die rake. All right, really love how these turned out. Very colorful. They'll stand up nicely on your tiles. And there you have it. That is the full base set for Die in the Dungeon. And this all settles back nicely in here. So again, I'll put these guys back from whence they came. It does come with a couple of extra baggies if you want to split things up a bit. But if not, it's all ready to go there. I'll actually set them over here just to make it easier. There we go. So that's all that. I'd set that back in there. I would put on my lid, and if I bought the base game, that's what we have. But that's not all, because some people wanted to add something on. And so there are, I think, about 600 people or so who were interested in the deco dice. So I'm going to open this box back up and show you that if you did buy the deck of dice, you actually have a nice hollow spot right there where this deck of dice can fit. So the deck of dice comes with a little rule book. This actually didn't come with the original Kickstarter. Hopes Games was able to produce this at a low cost. And in here is basically text directly from the Kickstarter on how deck of dice works, the deck of dice breakdown, and a little mini rulebook about Dominions. So I'm going to open this up while we're here, and some of you may have not heard of deck of dice yet, so bear with me as I try to crack open this plastic with my thumbnail that I should not have cut. Alright, so we'll crack this open. There are plenty of these available if anybody's still interested. I did order extra, but the deck of dice will come with 24 cards, all the same back, so completely randomized. And when you flip them over, they've each got different values from D4, D6, D8, D10, D12, D20, and it goes all the way up. And so once you hit 10, actually once you hit each number's top value, it starts to reset. So once you hit a 4 on a D4, it resets to 1. The D6, once it hits 6, it resets to 1. D8, once it hits 8, it resets to 1, etc. And same with even the 10s and 20s until you get to a reroll, which the 10s and 20s have just based on the denominations. And so if you were to shuffle these up in between every roll, you would always get a randomized die result. Or if you wanted to play the game a little bit differently, you would have the luxury of allowing the deck to run out, so you face every single die result in some way, shape, or form. That's an alternative way to use the deck of dice in this game or in other games. You could use them for RPGs on the go, things like that. But not only that, there's more. The deck of dice comes with Dominions. Now this is just a very simple game for 2 players, where each player gets 6 cards and they're going to choose each turn what Dominion they're going to use. And that works in tandem with the deck of dice. So obviously you'd have to read the rule book to go through the full game, but that is a nice little add-on. And the cool thing about it is it fits right there. So if you want sleeves, you might end up using that space. If you're not using sleeves or you want your deck of dice in there, it'll fit nice and tidy in there. All right, so I'm going to leave those in there, and we're not done yet though. So we're going to talk about the Die Master's Pledge. There are a select few individuals out there who decided that they wanted more, and some of you may have done add-ons. So first thing that we'll talk about is the 3D printed colored minis that come from Shop 3DO. So you can see here the Dominion, or the Diamond, the Die Roller. Again, that's all pre-colored. Nobody, I didn't have to paint that. It came printed in color. The Troll of Bones. You can see him holding that lovely die-shaped skull. And his D10 club. We have the Die Rake. I think that's the biggest of them all, actually. And finally, we have a free addition to that pledge. You'll notice that the Die Master's Pledge did not include tombstones, but I chose to include them. He's got some nice D12 shoulder blades. Front of his shield has a D20, so he's all ready to slay. So that comes with the Die Master's Pledge, but there's more. Die Master's Pledge came with 2 extra sets of polyhedral dice. So I believe they're going to get either yellow and black or red and black, just based on availability of dice at the time of ordering. But again, 2 additional sets are not black, yellow and white or red and white. But those will be coming for the Die Master's Pledge. In addition, there is a dice bag with the die roller. And this is actually a pretty nice bag if you look inside. Some very smooth material. My entire hand can fit in there with plenty of room to spare, so all of the dice from this game would easily fit inside that bag if you wanted it to, or if you just want to use that for other dice that you have in your collection. It looks nice on the shelf. I posted a picture of that on the Facebook group not too long ago. The Die Master's Pledge also came with this. This is the playmat. Here, I'll move these fine creatures over and throw down the playmat for you to have a look at. Whoop. So see, oh yeah, got the whole thing on the screen there. And so the way the playmat works is it's got a grid already laid out, and I'll use this grid when I do the first playthrough with the game, but your tiles, as you set up your dungeon, fit nicely on the grid. So whenever you're building your map, it actually makes it a bit easier to build as you wish. Or if you're doing a build your own dungeon, you've got a nice little framework to go with. Keep in mind that there are a couple of dungeons that go beyond the 8x8, but this is a good template for building your own dungeon, or for most of the dungeons included in the dungeon guide. So there you have it. Nice solid material, wonderful printing quality. Artwork again done by the artist Tristram Rawson. So dice shaped all around the frame, very simple logo. Just kept it simple with the focus being on the game and not on the mat itself. So those are all the extras that come with the Die Master's Pledge, with one other thing that's not really Die in the Dungeon related, but as a bonus, included a copy of Duel of the Dragons. This is Fundamental Games' first game. Had it reprinted through the Game Crafter specifically for the Die Masters Pledge, and so now it comes in a sealed plastic cover. For those of you who got the original Kickstarter version, you may have remembered having to fold this box. It comes pre-made now because of a different manufacturer and sealed shut. But I will show you the contents for those of you interested. If you would like to get a copy of this, by all means, reach out to fundamentalgames@icloud.com. It'll come with one folded up instruction manual. Unfortunately, with Game Crafter, options are limited with how you can get certain things made, so this was the option I went with. So that's the entire rule book there. Again, this is a fairly straightforward two-player game with some strategic elements to it, but it also comes with solo rules. So you can see here the dragons that the game comes with. We've got Mistlin, it's a silver dragon, Bracken, the blue dragon, some solo rules. This piece of art here by Andrea Butera, the guy that did the artwork for Legends of Novus, has a dragon in there. A couple more dragons. This is by Nicola Merkea. And then we have all of the Duel of the Dragons cards. If you want to see how this game works, check out the old Kickstarter page. It talks all about how the cards layer and how the math works. So there is a bit of math involved in this game. But that is Duel of the Dragons, coming free with every Kickstarter edition of the game. Or, sorry, not every Kickstarter edition, every Die Masters Pledge. But again, you can still get a copy of this if you send me an email. I can teach you how to find that. And there you have it. That is Die in the Dungeon for you, complete unboxing. Hopefully you like what you saw in there. Everything worked out well for the manufacturing of this game, the only exception being that reversal of the dungeon guide, which is completely workable. It's not going to ruin the game. Just means you play through the guide in reverse instead of forwards. So, if you're used to reading books from back to front, it should work out fine for you. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, concerns, feel free to reach out, send me an email, send me a Facebook message, however you'd like to reach me. I'll do my best to respond in a timely manner and help you out where you need help.